a whisper lost in the vast ocean, a disappearance that defies logic, leaving only silence behind. Picture a cold, indifferent night aboard a luxury cruise ship, once filled with laughter and light, now shadowed by the sudden vanishing of a young woman. This is more than a missing person's story. It is an unsolved mystery wrapped in darkness and silence. Welcome to Criminal Mindcast, where we tell true crime stories not just with facts, but through the haunting weight of what remains unsaid. We explore cold cases and dark pasts that refuse to fade, shining a light on the quiet corners of human nature where mysteries persist. Tonight, we journey into the eerie story of Amy Bradley, a bright young life lost at sea, leaving behind chilling questions that remain unanswered. Amy's disappearance is a cold case that continues to haunt investigators and her family, hiding a dark past beneath the surface of a luxury voyage. Join us as we unravel this haunting tale, where shadows reveal little but conceal much. Amy Bradley was a vibrant young woman whose life held as much promise as the endless horizon. She admired aboard the cruise ship, a talented college student. She dreamed beyond the limits of her small hometown. Yet beneath her bright smile lay unseen complexities, family tensions that simmered quietly, unspoken but deeply felt. These hidden fractures shaped Amy's inner world, revealing a young soul struggling with both the challenges of youth and the heavy weight of secrecy and expectation. The pressures of family, combined with personal struggles, created a fragile balance that grew harder to sustain amid the isolation of life at sea. The cruise ship was more than a vessel. It was a floating society drifting over vast, indifferent waters, its crowded corridors, filled with passengers and crew, concealed shadows deeper than the ocean below. In this confined space, social dynamics intensified, and the lines between public and private blurred. Luxury and leisure masked subtle tensions beneath the surface. For Amy, this environment became a crucible where inner conflicts met external pressures. Her psychological profile revealing a young woman caught between hope and despair, longing for freedom yet held by invisible chains. Family secrets deeply influenced Amy's mental state, shaping her thoughts and emotions in ways that often went unnoticed. The complex mix of love, expectations, and silence formed an emotional undercurrent that affected her behavior and perceptions. These strains mirrored the social microcosm of the ship, a place where appearances were carefully maintained, while truths often remained buried beneath polished facadas. The tragedy that unfolded was not simply the result of physical circumstances, but arose from this intricate web of psychological and emotional forces. To understand Amy's story fully, it is crucial to explore her character, inner conflicts, and the unique environment around her. This disappearance is more than a mystery. It reflects the quiet fractures beneath a seemingly perfect setting. Like a small-town murder mystery, the cruise ship's social pressures, family dynamics, and psychological complexities converge to create a haunting tragedy that continues to baffle and linger. The dynamics aboard the ship, isolated, enclosed, and layered with complex social hierarchies, exacerbated Amy's vulnerabilities. The mind, when trapped in confined spaces with mounting pressures, can unravel in unexpected ways. The tension between the external world of opulence and internal turmoil reveals a poignant truth about human nature. Beneath even the brightest exterior, darkness can linger unseen and unchecked. This paradox is central to understanding why Amy's disappearance was not just a physical event, but a psychological collapse that rippled outward. In exploring Amy Bradley's background, one must consider the broader implications of psychological distress within confined environments. The cruise ship serves as an intense, condensed reflection of society's broader struggles with isolation, identity, and mental health. Amy's story resonates because it touches on universal themes of belonging, control, and the silent battles many face. The unresolved tension between her inner world and the external environment foreshadows the tragic event, revealing the fragile threads upon which her fate hung. The confined and insular world of the cruise ship acts as a magnifying glass, intensifying the psychological complexities that surrounded Amy Bradley's disappearance. Within this small, floating community, the usual distinctions between public and private life become blurred. creating an environment akin to a pressure cooker where emotions, secrets, and anxieties accumulate unchecked. This unique social context fostered a sense of vulnerability and isolation for Amy, amplifying her internal struggles and possibly exacerbating her mental state. The boundaries that normally separate one's inner world from the gaze of others dissolved aboard the ship, leaving personal tensions exposed yet often unnoticed or misunderstood by those around her. These silent warning signs the subtle shifts in mood. The moments of withdrawal or agitation were not adequately perceived or acted upon, setting a stage in which tragedy became not only possible, but perhaps unavoidable. Looking deeper, Amy Bradley's disappearance ceases to be a simple event defined by a missing person report. Instead, it emerges as a layered human story, woven from psychological complexity, family history, and a socially intense environment. Her mind, a complex interplay of brilliance and hidden darkness, collided with the isolating nature of life on a cruise ship, an environment both physically and socially enclosed. This interplay reveals dimensions of her experience that transcend surface impressions. To understand what might have led to her vanishing, it is essential to consider these factors collectively. The psychological burden she carried, the secrets that loomed within her family, and the social pressures embedded in the microcosm of the ship all converged into a fragile and volatile context. The disappearance is, therefore, not just a physical loss, but a profound narrative of silent battles, struggles fought in solitude and shadow, where hope and despair delicately coexist. This examination naturally leads us toward broader philosophical reflections. How do we reconcile the visible veneer of safety, joy, and normalcy with the often hidden reality of pain, struggle, and fragmentation? Stoic philosophy offers insight here. It encourages acceptance of the elements beyond our control, fostering resilience in the face of uncertainty and suffering. At the same time, it demands an unflinching awareness of human nature's inherent complexities and contradictions. Amy's story poignantly embodies this tension. On one hand, there is the calm, endless serenity of the ocean surrounding the ship. On the other, the turbulent, conflicted emotions and psychological unrest within a single human heart. This dichotomy highlights the fragile balance between external peace and inner turmoil. As we prepare to delve further into the specific circumstances and timeline of Amy's disappearance, it is vital to keep in mind the intricate psychological and social framework from which this tragedy arose. It was within this delicate interplay of family secrets, individual struggles, and the claustrophobic, high-pressure environment of the cruise ship that the seeds of mystery were planted. This narrative is far more than a story of a lost life. It is a reflection on the invisible conflicts waged in silence, in spaces where hope and despair exist side by side, balanced precariously. Recognizing these unseen forces allows us to approach Amy Bradley's disappearance not only as an unresolved mystery, but as a profound human tragedy marked by quiet desperation and complex emotional depths. The night Amy Bradley vanished unfolded with subtle but significant disturbances that, when pieced together, form a perplexing timeline. It began in the early hours, under the cloak of darkness that settled across the vast ocean. Witnesses recall seeing Amy wandering the ship's decks, her behavior markedly strange, disoriented, confused, and unsettled. This erratic demeanor was unlike the confident, lively young woman they knew, signaling a mind fraying under unseen pressures. The seemingly innocent act of walking alone at night soon took on a sinister hue, foreshadowing a mystery that would deepen with each passing moment. Round this time, several unsettling incidents disrupted the normal rhythm aboard the cruise ship. A mysterious man, whose presence was noted but not fully understood, appeared near Amy's last known location. His actions were subtle yet suspicious, casting a shadow over the otherwise festive environment. Concurrently, a sudden power outage plunged sections of the ship into darkness, severing the sense of security passengers often take for granted. This blackout was not merely a technical malfunction. It introduced a physical and psychological void where fear and uncertainty could quietly fester. Adding to the puzzle were cryptic phone calls, brief, interrupted conversations that hinted at communication under duress. The fragmented nature of these calls leaves us grasping for meaning, a desperate attempt to connect amid growing isolation. Such details, often dismissed as inconsequential, may in fact hold keys to understanding the complex dynamics at play. The timeline here becomes more than a sequence of events. It is a map of escalating tension, confusion, and silent threats lurking just beyond perception. Amy's last seen alive moment is both haunting and enigmatic. There was no struggle, no overt sign of violence, only the sudden disappearance into thin air. This absence of evidence intensifies the mystery, forcing investigators and observers alike to confront the terrifying reality that someone can vanish entirely without a trace. The ship, normally a place of celebration and safety, transformed into an arena of unanswered questions, where every shadow seemed to conceal a secret. The details surrounding Amy's vanishing also expose the fragility of human perception. Witnesses who might have helped piece together the puzzle were often left confused, their memories clouded by the strange behaviors and the unusual atmosphere of that night. The fleeting glimpses of a suspicious figure, the blackout, and the interrupted calls form a narrative thread woven with uncertainty and fear. This thread, however, is delicate and prone to unraveling under scrutiny, leaving us with fragments rather than clarity. Examining the timeline through a psychological lens reveals deeper implications. Amy's confused state suggests acute distress, possibly triggered by a traumatic event or overwhelming internal conflict. The presence of the unknown man may represent an external catalyst or threat, while the blackout creates an environment where control is lost and chaos can thrive. Together, these elements construct a scenario ripe for tragedy, a convergence of vulnerability and malevolence. In a confined space. Philosophically, the timeline embodies the tension between appearance and reality. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control external events, we can govern our reactions and maintain inner tranquility. Amy's situation starkly contrasts this ideal. The external world shifted abruptly from order to chaos, and her internal world appeared to collapse under the strain. This juxtaposition invites reflection on the fragility of safety and the unpredictable nature of human experience. The power outage itself serves as a metaphor for the darkness enveloping this case. Both literal and symbolic, it disrupted not only the ship's electrical systems, but also the passengers' sense of security. In that blackout, normal boundaries dissolved, leaving an eerie space where the known became unknown. This physical darkness parallels the psychological darkness experienced by Amy, and potentially by the perpetrator, a shared void where actions escape illumination. The cryptic phone calls are a final, haunting element of the timeline. Communication under distress is often fragmented and incomplete, reflecting the chaos within the mind. These calls suggest Amy's attempt to reach out, to connect with someone who might offer help or solace. Yet the abrupt endings highlight isolation and helplessness, reinforcing the chilling reality of her disappearance. These silences between words carry a weight heavier than any confession. Together, these pieces construct a timeline that defies easy explanation, but demands careful scrutiny. The strange behavior, the suspicious figures, the blackout, and the mysterious calls weave a narrative dense with psychological and emotional complexity. It is a story not just of a physical disappearance, but of a gradual unraveling of mind, circumstance, and safety. As the timeline unfolds, it also raises questions about bystanders and witnesses. Why did no one intervene more decisively? What social dynamics aboard the ship influenced reactions to Amy's distress? The enclosed environment of the cruise ship magnifies these questions, as space is limited and escape options are few. The tension between individual agency and collective responsibility plays out silently in the background, contributing to the unresolved nature of the case. The sequence of events offers fertile ground for speculation, but also caution. It warns against jumping to conclusions and encourages a measured, analytical approach grounded in psychology and philosophy. The complexity of human behavior, especially under stress, resists simple narratives. Amy Bradley's disappearance, situated within this layered timeline, challenges us to look beyond surface details and seek understanding in the interplay of mind, environment, and circumstance. In reflecting on this timeline, we are reminded of the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, that all things are transient, constantly changing, and often beyond our control. Amy's fate, shrouded in uncertainty, exemplifies this harsh truth. Her disappearance is a moment frozen in time, suspended between presence and absence, clarity and mystery. It compels us to accept the limits of knowledge while pursuing the deeper meanings hidden within silence. The events of that night remain a chilling testament to how quickly order can dissolve into chaos, how vulnerability can be exploited in moments of darkness. Amy Bradley's story is not just about what was seen or heard, but about what was never witnessed. The invisible forces shaping a tragedy that continues to haunt the imagination. The investigation into Amy Bradley's disappearance began with urgency, but quickly revealed cracks beneath the surface. Law enforcement officials aboard the ship and later on land faced a challenging environment, a confined international space, complicated by jurisdictional ambiguities and procedural hurdles. Despite the initial determination, critical evidence was overlooked or mishandled, allowing key leads to grow cold. This neglect sowed doubt about the thoroughness and competence of the investigation, eroding public trust and deepening the shadows enveloping the case. Police theories ranged widely, from accidental disappearance to abduction or foul play, but none could be definitively proven. The fragmented nature of witness accounts, the absence of physical evidence, and the complexity of shipboard social dynamics hindered clear conclusions. As the investigation stalled, frustration mounted among Amy's family, friends, and the broader community who sought answers that seemed perpetually out of reach. The failure to secure closure transformed Amy's case from a tragedy into a haunting enigma. Media coverage intensified the public's fascination and anxiety. Sensational headlines and speculative reporting created a media frenzy that distorted facts and amplified rumors. This coverage, while raising awareness, also complicated the search for truth. Public opinion swayed between sympathy and suspicion, often influenced more by conjecture than concrete information. The media's focus on mystery and intrigue sometimes overshadowed the human cost and the meticulous work required in criminal investigations. Social reactions reflected a mixture of fear, empathy, and distrust. Communities connected to Amy mobilized in vigils and campaigns, demanding renewed efforts to uncover the truth. However, the broader public's appetite for sensational stories fueled conspiracy theories that further muddied the waters. This dynamic highlights the tension between genuine concern and the allure of mystery, a phenomenon not uncommon in cold cases where facts are scarce and emotions run high. Analyzing the police response reveals systemic challenges in handling cases that straddle multiple jurisdictions and involve complex environments like cruise ships. Protocols designed for land-based investigations often fall short in maritime contexts, leading to gaps in evidence collection and suspect interrogation. These institutional limitations, combined with possible human error or bias, underscore the difficulties in securing justice when traditional frameworks are ill-equipped. The social psychology of bystanders and witnesses also played a critical role. The cruise ship, a closed social system, shaped interactions and behaviors in ways that may have suppressed intervention or clear reporting. Fear of repercussions, social conformity, and diffused responsibility likely contributed to the muted responses to Amy's distress. Understanding these dynamics is essential in evaluating both the investigative process and the broader societal reaction. Media frenzy often reflects collective anxieties and a desire to impose narrative order on chaotic events. In Amy's case, the relentless spotlight paradoxically obscured more than it revealed. The interplay between media sensationalism and police theories created a feedback loop that complicated the quest for facts. This dynamic serves as a cautionary tale about the power of narrative and the importance of critical engagement with information. The police theories, while varied, shared common themes of control, opportunity, and vulnerability. Some proposed that Amy's disappearance was the result of a predatory individual exploiting the ship's environment. Others suggested an accidental fall or voluntary disappearance driven by psychological distress. The absence of definitive evidence, however, left these theories as speculative constructs rather than conclusive explanations. Public reaction to these competing theories reflected broader societal attitudes towards victims and perpetrators. Amy became, in some narratives, both a symbol of innocence lost and an enigmatic figure whose actions were scrutinized. This duality reveals how societal perceptions can shape and sometimes distort the interpretation of events, influencing both justice and memory. In dissecting the investigation and public response, one confronts the complexities of truth in the modern age, the interplay of human fallibility, institutional constraints, and media influence creates an environment where clarity is elusive. Amy Bradley's disappearance thus becomes more than a case. It is a mirror reflecting the challenges inherent in seeking justice amid ambiguity. Philosophically, the situation echoes the Confucian emphasis on harmony and order disrupted by human failings. The discord between institutional responsibility and individual action highlights the fragility of social structures designed to protect and serve. Amy's story invites reflection on how societies respond to trauma and uncertainty, balancing the need for resolution with acceptance of the unknowable. The shortcomings of the investigation into Amy Bradley's disappearance create an opportunity to explore new approaches rooted in psychological understanding and interdisciplinary collaboration. Traditional investigative methods, while essential, have limitations when faced with complex human behavior and the nuanced social environments. Like that of a cruise ship, modern forensic psychology offers tools to profile behavior patterns, while social dynamics analysis can reveal hidden interactions within confined spaces. Coupled with advances in technology such as data analytics, digital forensics, and surveillance enhancements, these approaches can breathe new life into cold cases. Acknowledging where previous efforts fell short is not an admission of defeat, but a necessary step toward refining strategies and pursuing justice with renewed rigor and sensitivity. Public reaction and the police response are deeply intertwined, narratives that continue to influence the legacy of Amy Bradley's case. They expose fundamental truths about human nature, our innate drive to seek answers, the urge to construct narratives when facts are scarce, and the fragile balance between hope and despair. The story highlights how unresolved trauma does not only affect those directly involved, but ripples outward, shaping communities and collective memory. This complex web of emotions and perceptions demonstrates that a disappearance is never just an isolated event. It becomes part of a broader psychological and social tapestry. Reflecting on this phase of the case underscores that the search for truth extends beyond physical evidence. It is as much a psychological and social pursuit as it is a forensic one. Human behavior marked by fear, empathy, denial, and speculation interacts in multifaceted ways, capable of both revealing hidden realities and obscuring them behind layers of misunderstanding. Amy Bradley's story embodies these intricate dynamics, reminding us of the ongoing challenge to confront darkness with clarity, reason, and compassion. Amy Bradley's disappearance provides a profound and unsettling window into the complex psychological mechanisms that influence human behavior under extreme and isolating conditions. At the heart of this case lies a tangled interplay of trauma, the desire for control, and the availability of opportunity, an intricate triad frequently observed in cases where individuals vanish without a trace. The unique and confined environment of a cruise ship intensifies these dynamics, transforming the vessel from a place of leisure into a psychological pressure cooker. Within such a constrained and often anonymous social space, latent impulses can surface with alarming clarity, and calculated actions can unfold with chilling precision, unimpeded by the usual boundaries of daily life. To truly comprehend the potential mindset of any individual responsible for Amy's disappearance, one must delve into the darker recesses of human psychology, where unresolved trauma and the need for dominance often intertwine. Trauma psychology teaches us that deep, unprocessed psychological wounds rarely remain dormant. Instead, they can manifest in manipulative or violent behaviors, especially when an individual's sense of control is threatened or feels entirely beyond reach. In the closed ecosystem of a cruise ship, these tendencies are magnified. The vessel's enclosed space, combined with the fluid movement of passengers and crew, creates an environment where power dynamics become amplified and opportunities for exploitation multiply beneath a veil of anonymity. The transient nature of the passengers and the complexity of maritime jurisdiction further complicate accountability, allowing shadowy behaviors to escape notice or consequence. Philosophically, the silence enveloping Amy's case resonates deeply with Stoic reflections on fate and acceptance. The Stoics urge us to recognize the boundary between what lies within our control and what does not. They advocate for cultivating peace amid uncertainty and resilience in the face of adversity. Amy's disappearance confronts us with an abyss of unknowns that defy the human desire for clarity, justice, and closure. It serves as a stark reminder that some events elude comprehension, leaving behind only the cold, indifferent silence of the ocean, a silence that is at once profound and impenetrable. The trauma experienced by Amy and those connected to her ripples far beyond the immediate event of her disappearance. Trauma psychology emphasizes the enduring nature of unresolved grief and unanswered questions, which often create cycles of emotional pain that extend through families and communities for years, even generations. This lingering psychological impact demands a compassionate understanding that reaches beyond the tangible search for physical evidence. It acknowledges the invisible emotional landscapes sculpted by loss, mystery, and the persistent ache of uncertainty. For those left behind, the absence of closure can be as devastating as the disappearance itself. Should fresh investigations into Amy's case be undertaken, integrating psychological profiling with traditional forensic methods may unlock promising new avenues of discovery. Psychological profiling allows investigators to examine behavioral patterns, emotional triggers, and interpersonal dynamics that earlier inquiries might have overlooked or lacked the means to analyze comprehensively. When combined with advancements in technology such as enhanced data analysis, digital forensics, and improved surveillance techniques, this integrated approach holds the potential to illuminate long-forgotten shadows, bringing clarity where there was once only darkness. Recognizing and learning from past investigative shortcomings is not an admission of defeat, but a necessary step toward refining methods and renewing hope for resolution. Moreover, the social dynamics aboard the cruise ship warrant renewed scrutiny. The enclosed space of the ship drastically alters typical social interactions, often simultaneously increasing feelings of vulnerability and intensifying social surveillance. This paradoxical environment shapes the behavior of both victims and perpetrators in complex ways, influencing actions, reactions, and the unfolding of events in critical ways. Understanding these social nuances is essential for comprehending the full context of Amy's disappearance and any potential foul play. The interplay between personal psychology and collective social pressure creates a volatile and often unpredictable atmosphere where small tensions can escalate rapidly and quietly. The fundamental question, why did this happen to Amy Bradley, invites reflection that extends far beyond superficial explanations. Psychological theories suggest that motivations in such cases are frequently rooted in primal fears, desires for control, and sometimes deep-seated psychological disorders. However, the lack of definitive evidence leaves us with an uncomfortable humility. The human mind, much like the ocean itself, harbors vast, unfathomable mysteries. This acknowledgement challenges the human craving for neat resolutions and highlights the limits of our understanding. Viewing the case through the lens of Buddhist philosophy offers another layer of insight. Buddhism teaches us about the impermanence of all things and the inevitability of suffering in life. Amy's fate, suspended between presence and absence, known and unknown, exemplifies the transient nature of existence and the suffering born from attachment and loss. While this perspective does not provide concrete answers, it offers a compassionate framework for holding the anguish and uncertainty with equanimity. It invites acceptance of what cannot be changed while fostering a deeper empathy for those caught in the web of grief. In the aftermath, the silence surrounding Amy's disappearance speaks louder than words. This silence is heavy with what was never said, never uncovered, and perhaps never will be. It is not a mere void or absence. It is a presence unto itself, shaping memory, grief, and the collective psyche of all who remain. This silence imprints on those connected to the case, influencing their emotional landscapes and molding their ongoing relationship with loss and hope. The psychological insights from Amy's story urge us to broaden our understanding of crime, disappearance, and human behavior. They call for a holistic approach that combines forensic science with psychological and philosophical perspectives. This fusion creates a deeper, more compassionate narrative, one that faces darkness with empathy and reason rather than avoidance. Amy Bradley's disappearance challenges us to accept the limits of knowledge and human complexity. The vast, cold ocean reflects the silent mystery that surrounds her case, reminding us that some truths may remain forever hidden. Yet within this silence lies an invitation to listen more carefully, seek understanding with humility, and hold the unknown with quiet dignity. It teaches us that lacking answers does not mean lacking meaning, and that embracing uncertainty is a profound act of humanity. Amy Bradley's disappearance confronts us with a chilling truth. Fear often reflects our deepest, unspoken realities. Her vanishing is more than a lost life, it's a mirror to the fragile sense of safety and the heavy silence that trauma leaves behind. Some mysteries resist closure, lingering in shadowed places where answers fear to go. This story urges us to reflect on the human condition, the fragile balance between hope and despair, and the constant tension between control and chaos. It reveals that beneath even the brightest lives can lie hidden struggles, unseen yet profoundly felt. Amy's fate is a haunting reminder of how limited our understanding can be, and how silence often holds the greatest power. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Criminal Mindcast for more true crime tales that explore quiet, unsettling truths. Some crimes leave no screams, only questions, and some silences echo louder than any confession. Thank you for listening to Criminal Mindcast.
References 1. Hazelwood, R.R., and Warren, J., 2003. The Serial Murderer, Contemporary Perspectives and Case Studies. Point 2. Ressler, R.K., Burgess, A.W., and Douglas, J.E., 1992. Sexual Homicide, Patterns and Motives. Point 3. Stoicism Today. 2018, A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy.